Today we're taking a look at a lot of the different really easy to grow plants that we have in the studio, starting with this massive Monte Carlo ball. This thing is so cool. This is probably 6 months old and it is turned into a weeping willow. It started as just a little tissue culture of Monte Carlo sitting in the top of some spiderwood, just tied down with some green string. And look at this. I've trimmed this multiple times. Now we have this set up here so that I can actually easily pull this out. And if you're going to do something like this is definitely what you want to do. First of all, I got to make sure some of these neos get off there, including a little bit of our snails. See if we have any other friends on there that we have to just get out. This is growing under pretty low light. I mean, nothing fancy. We've got this really nice light from Aquazen here. Not super expensive, but it's definitely getting the job done. We've got some CO2 running in here as well. But check this out. If you want, all right, you can pull this thing entirely out of the water, just straight over a bucket like this. And then what I've done for the last 6 months or so, take these scissors from UNS, I've got a little curve on them, which I like, is I've just gone around and just given this a Jim Carrey Dumb and Dumber bowl cut. And get in there, you can take all the roots out. You definitely would want to do this outside of the aquarium. You try to do this in the aquarium, especially with an aquarium of this size, you are going to have a real mess on your hands. The nice thing about this is you can be really aggressive with the trim. You don't really have to worry about it too much. I do try to keep a little bit of shape here, but this is going to grow back quickly. So what I'm doing is really just creating a little bit more room for that to happen with some fresh growth. Don't forget that if you're looking for Monte Carlo to plant somewhere else in your aquarium, start a little carpet or something like this, you've just created a Monte Carlo factory right here that is just going to keep producing over and over again. You can easily plant these cuttings and start growing Monte Carlo as a carpet. Now, the one thing that you'll potentially get tempted to do is cut back up in this area. This thick area up here, I have had some trouble where I've cut up here and then it just browns or it doesn't really grow back as strong. So I'm going to continue to just cut from the bottom, but up here, I'm going to leave this alone. The other thing is, and we'll do this later off camera, but now that you've got this out, this tank is going to be way easier to do maintenance on, because you're going to be able to reach all of these different areas, vacuum, things like that. The other thing to point out is we have this S. repens in here, another tissue culture. This is growing actually in gravel, and the reason why it's growing in there is that we've got root tabs that we stuck into the gravel, and that's how those tissue cultures are getting their nutrients. So there we go. We'll leave that like that for now. As you can see, as I'm pushing this whole clump around, it just moves independently. I could easily tie a string over it and get it to sit down like that. If ever getting to the top of the water was an issue, that would be an easy thing to do. But I'm just gonna kind of let it sit as it is. I always like to just see how it grows. I don't try to make it perfect or anything like that. The other thing that I do like to do with little cups like this is, just as an example, if you're coming up here and you're doing some trimming on some of these little plants that are gonna release all of these tiny leaves, especially up at the surface, one of the things I like to do is just take a beaker like this and just dip it like this, and it's just gonna create a vacuum. And it's literally just sucking in all of these little leaves off of the surface. Now that we've got that trimmed, we'll come back, like I said, do a water change, but just wanted to show you what that looks like and what you can do with Monte Carlo. And let's move over to some other plants that we have growing in this aquarium. So this is a UNS 90B, 36 inches long. Love this tank. I love the long tank. And here we've got a great piece of spiderwood from Lifeguard that has just been an awesome addition to this tank. Got a number of different plants in here. So we've got some crips, we've got anubias, we've got Java moss, we've got Java fern, we've got some more anubias over here. And a couple things to point out. Number one, actually, what's cool is, from the species standpoint, we've got a samurai beta in here. This little guy just goes to show you, you can keep a beta in a community tank. You don't even have to worry about it fighting or causing any issues. This guy's super happy, but they do tend to jump, which is why I built this screen, which is a screen kit from Red Sea. And you can basically design, they give you the materials and you can design the shape, build your own screen, cut it around your filtration. Super easy to do, and it's awesome to have a screen like this on your tank. But when I'm taking a look at, where are my scissors? Here we go. Taking a look at this tank, a couple things that I'd want to do from a plant standpoint. taking a look at this Java fern, you've got a couple of these leaves that are melting a little bit. So I'm just gonna cut back some of the black on this. And when I'm cutting this back, I'm just looking to try to get far as I can down to the root of the leaf or the base of the leaf. And take a look at what this Java fern is doing. If you plant Java fern in your aquarium, see right here, this Java fern was planted way back there and it is literally running along this rock. So that rhizome, the thicker green part, that's where the leaves are coming out, but it is growing its little roots and attaching itself to this river stone here, and it's growing from way back there. So if you plant Java fern, expect to have a Java fern forest someday, as long as you've got good light. It doesn't need to be high light, but just you've got regular light throughout the day. You don't need CO2 or anything like that, but you keep your aquarium clean, and your Java fern is going to turn into a bit of a forest. Now, one of the things that you can do when that happens, again, is you can come down here, you can find the base of some of these leaves, and you can start trimming, just cutting at the base of the leaf, and this is going to grow back. But this is just a way in which you can come in and thin out your Java fern if it just becomes too bushy and you're looking to create a little bit more space in there. Just one thing to point out here, this anubias, this is glued to the rock, which is one thing that you can do. When you glue, just make sure you don't cover the rhizome. That rhizome is that thick part there that we were just talking about. That's the lifeblood of the plant. So when you glue, I like to use a thick super glue. That way it doesn't run, it doesn't get messy. I put it exactly where I want, and I can attach plants to rocks, I can attach them to wood. So those are different options that you have when you're using some of these easy to grow plants. Other thing that I point out here is this AI blade. This is such a great light for long tanks. I mean, really can't get anything better. You're getting a full spread, no shadowing across the entire tank, which is great. And we've got this little Tidal 35 Chem hang on the back filter, keeping this tank crystal clear, no problems at all. And it actually allows us to create some flow that goes right across, keeping all of, any of the oil slicks that you might see on the top of your aquarium off from there. Super easy to maintain, not super expensive. I've actually run canisters on these tanks in the past, which are fun, and those are cool too. But hang on the backs are a great option. Speaking of filters, we've got the sponge filter in this UNS 60U. Sponge filter is a great filter to have when you have guppies, of which we have quite a few of, and some of these guys are very small. Now, guppies love to have, room to hide, so that's why we have hanging or floating plants up here with these roots coming down. That's great when you have babies in the aquarium. They're going to want a place to hide from their parents that are going to otherwise potentially eat them. Also, we've got another little setup of anubias in here, but we got a couple different kinds. So this is anubias nana petite. This is a really cool little clump of leaves that are going to stay small. They're great to fit into pockets of dragonstone and things like that that you're seeing right here. Right next to it, you've got anubias golden. That is another one that's just got a lighter green plant to it, and that's a really pretty one. And then you've got anubias barteri over here, which is going to have those bigger plants and those longer stems. So different anubias in here that you can combine and create your own cool look. The other thing that I love about what we're doing in this aquarium is the fact that the lifeguard spiderwood is coming out of the top of the aquarium. I think a lot of times people really just try to fit everything within the aquarium and think that this is some barrier that you can't cross. But when you just have things that are growing up and out of the aquarium, you're actually creating a more natural look than just keeping everything in the box. So I think that that's a really cool area here. I wouldn't do any trimming to these plants other than to just point them out to you and just remind you that a sponge filter is a great filter option, especially if you have guppies. But if you want to look at some really interesting things you can do with plants, take a look at this aquaponics. This is from Aquel, and you can find it on our site, but this was really fun to set up. We actually have another video here on the channel showing the whole setup of this. But imagine just being able to have this over your aquarium in your house, where you've got things like basil, strawberries, even peppers, vegetables that you're literally growing from the help of your aquarium. So check this out. This is modular, so you can make it as big as you want. We've got a pump down here that's actually pumping water up to the top of this. And if you listen, you can actually hear the water trickling down. It's cascading all the way along these things, and then it's filtering back here into the aquarium. What the nitrates are doing in the aquarium, what the fish waste and all of those things are doing, is it's actually feeding your plants. So not only are you just simply watering them, and we also have these little balls of Leica in here as well, which are great soil, a lot of filtration, water can flow through them really easily. But the aquarium is actually feeding your plants, which is feeding you. So that's a pretty cool way to do plants that, you know, is a little bit less traditional than just keeping plants in the aquarium. So that's a little walkthrough of some of the plants that we've got going on in the aquarium. We'll see you next time.